and this is one of the craziest races I think I've ever seen. The Senate race in Pennsylvania has caught the attention, I think, of the nation at this point. On one hand, you have Democrat John Fetterman clearly pushing an ultra-left agenda. He's clearly mentally and physically unfit to serve, really, in any office at this point. I think that's pretty clear. Then you have Dr. Oz, who's largely criticized by conservatives for being wishy-washy on issues ranging from vaccines to abortion and gun rights. As an independent voter, when you saw these two on the general election ballot, what were your first thoughts?
I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit, but with I guess to start with Dr. Oz, and from a personal standpoint, from watching him on television, I never really had a big issue with the guy. But once he shows up on a ballot and he's going to be potentially serving as your state senator, you start to look a little more closely. And you mentioned at the top there, very wishy-washy on gun rights. Yes. Also, in the past on his TV show, did some things with bringing transgender children and also transgender surgeons on his show to give them a platform. Since then, he has kind of changed his stance on that, saying that he's not in favor of males participating in female sports and things like that. You have to take him at his word for something like that. But of course, was not really excited for him to be the Republican nominee for Senate. In the primary, I don't know if your listeners or your watchers remember this, but in the GOP primary in PA for that seat, very close race. There was, I think they did a recount in every single county in Pennsylvania between Dr. Oz and David McCormick. David McCormick, a former hedge fund CEO, right. Very, very qualified. I think a West Point graduate, I believe. Don't have that in front of me. But extremely close. Kind of surprising that Trump endorsed Dr. Oz. I think that shocked a lot of people. But he did, and that really gave him enough steam to get over top. And I think from the start, Oz was in a position where, with it being such a contested primary race, that he had to kind of find a way to unite the GOP behind him, or his campaign team did, and they just had an awful start to doing that. One of the worst run campaigns from going from after the primary through the first few months of the general, just getting destroyed by Fetterman. Fetterman, just having had a stroke right before the primary, was totally missing from the scene. No interviews, no appearances, nothing. And Fetterman's team would lay into Oz, and Oz would put out goofy videos and goofy commercials and just get destroyed without any rebuttal or any aggression back towards attacking John Fetterman. To switch to Fetterman, I've known this guy for, not known him personally, but known of him for a while. I live in Western Pennsylvania. He has been the mayor of Braddock, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. I think he was the mayor for something like 12 or 13 years. And a lot of people who look at John Fetterman from the outside, they look at him and they think, oh, he must be, sort of a man of the people, a blue collar man. He looks like, if you envision like what Pittsburgh looks like, you look at John Fetterman, you think that guy looks like Pittsburgh, kind of. So he kind of has that going for him, right? But in reality, when you peel back the layers, he's a guy that grew up in a very privileged life. Parents, very successful conservative Republicans growing up in York.
Really?
And I think his dad had an insurance agency. But yeah, so he grew up with that, and his parents actually supported him most of his life. I think till he was like 49 or maybe even later than that, but, buying his houses, and even when he was mayor of Braddock, helping him to invest in the community there. And I think he bought a church and turned it into a community center with their backing. But he's really made a political career out of dressing up like a blue collar worker, and it's fooled people. And I think it's interesting that he doesn't talk about his parents or the success of his parents achieving the American dream, really enabling him to live this life. Instead, he's gone that, Bernie Sanders route, where he wants to use the government to funnel money into pet projects and different things that he wants to address, rather than Fetterman could have taken the route of his father, become successful, and done the same thing through charity. So I think it's very interesting dynamic.